Hello buddy, welcome back. I'm Strategy Professor, and today we're going to be looking at a Zyra support video for patch 8.11. So special thanks to Jen for the generous donation. I really appreciate it. If you would like a coaching session yourself, you can just email me at thestrategyprofessor@gmail.com. It's just $20. If you're not a member, if you are a PayPal member of the channel, it's just $15. If you'd like to become a PayPal member of the channel, it's just $5 a month, so it's basically free. If you want a coaching session, and then that also gives you access to our member-only Discord. It's a cool, clean, fun community. You get to come out and play with us on Tuesdays whenever you like. You get to vote on a straw poll to see which champions that I play on Tuesdays, and many other perks. So be sure to check that out at this link in this Google Doc here, and you can find this Google Doc in the description of this video as we go along if you'd like. But if you want to know more about that, I've got a link here for the membership system if you're interested in that. Then I have other donation rewards as well, including if you want to commission an in-depth guide, or if you want, I need to change that around, that should be $30 now for the guide. And just other things as well, like singing karaoke, playing your favorite champion, just all kinds of fun stuff there if you're interested in that. If you want to watch more coaching sessions, I have the playlist linked here. I think this will be like my 109th coaching session or so. So lots of good content there if you want to check that out. And if you want to see in-depth champion guides, I do have an in-depth Zyra guide. Then be sure to check that out also. Okay. Let's go ahead and get in here then. Alright, so I'm just going to do a little bit of the pregame first. We'll watch the game itself, and then I'll write up some notes as we watch it, and then I'll do a post-game at the end where I try to give Jens the top like 5 to 10 things to help him win more games. So, as far as just runes go, not much has changed for Zyra over the course of this season. They're pretty much running the same stuff. Got Comet, Mana Flow, Celerity, Scorch, Bone Plating, Chrysalis, pretty standard on almost every Zyra. There has been some talk of maybe some Zyras taking Electrocute. Very few of them, if you look at pro builds, are doing that. The reason is the Domination Tree is just pretty trash right now. If you can't use Sudden Impact, which is the second row, and you can't really use that as Zyra unless you want to go Proto Belt, which is not something I would recommend most of the time on Zyra. So Cheap Shot's not that great. Like, yeah, it's cool if you hit them with your E, but your Q's not going to proc it, and most of the time you're going to be hitting people with your Q plant in lane. So, you know, Cheap Shot can be okay if you consistently hit your E's. But I think it's just a little too situational. Zombie Ward is pretty bad after all of the nerfs to it. Usually I recommend Eyeball if you want to go dabble into the Domination Tree Eyeball collection. And then Relentless Hunter is okay. It's not that great though. Ultimate Hunter would be interesting. But overall it's just pretty weak compared to the Sorcery Tree, at least for now, in 8.11. They are nerfing Celerity next patch to make that pretty bad. But I think you could go something like Transcendence or the thing that gets 10% CDR, or you could, because CDR is very nice on Zyra, but it's hard to itemize for it. Or you could even go for the thing that does, where you do extra damage if you have 75% or more of your health. I forgot what that's called, but you have other good options other than Celerity after he gets nerfed. So I think Sorcery will still be #1. There is a conversation to be had for going Airy early on. So the difference between Airy and Comet is Airy is guaranteed damage off of your plants because it can't miss. It does less damage than Comet, but it's up more often and does that guaranteed damage, whereas Comet can be dodged. But Comet scales better, it does more damage, you know, over time, and each one of your plant attacks lowers the cooldown of Comet. So Comet is historically what people will go. It's very nice, so it's good later on in the game. It's okay in the early game. Especially if people don't dodge it, obviously, but that's why I ultimately go with Comet. But I have tried Ares sometimes too, and it does give more consistent poke early if you think that's something that you're going to need in your game. Okay, then as of right now, Bone Plating and Chrysalis are just kind of a must-have on everybody. There's so much damage in the game right now, you have to have some mitigation for that damage, especially in the early game. So yeah, just Bone Plating Chrysalis is pretty much standard on everybody. Good build order, you want to go Frostfang, Sorcerer Boots. You want to make sure you get those Sorcerer Boots very quickly because that gives you 18 spell penetration, which is huge on Zyra. And then Leandries is what I'd get shortly thereafter. Well, I say shortly. It takes a long time to build up to Leandries, but you really need it. The Haunting Guise is a nice power spike. It's a good combination with Sorcerer Boots. and then because the 10% extra damage or whatever also gets affected by spell penetration. So that's really nice. And then Leandri's is really good too in the end, because it does a lot of that very heavy base damage. And then Rylai's after the Leandri's is a good sort of 1-2 punch. It adds extra slow, gives you a bit more survivability, and then make sure that you always get that double Leandri's burn, which is pretty nice. And then if you have enough gold, if the game goes really long or you're just super rich, you can get a Void Staff after this, and it's pretty good. There's a conversation to be had for Morello Nomicon. Like, the starting component, the thing that gives you the 15 spell pins, Oblivion Orb, is nice, but the final product is a little underwhelming compared to Leandri's. Like, yeah, they do have the same amount of damage, and they have similar health, but the passive on Leandri's, it has those two passives. It gives you 10% more damage after you've been in combat for so long, up to 5 seconds, and then it also gives you that extra percentage burn damage. Just, if you haven't watched it, or anyone out there, if you're wondering why this is the build path, just check out my AP itemization video. I made that right when they changed the AP items in patch like 8.4 or so, and it's still relevant right now because they haven't changed the items significantly since then. So be sure to check out that video if you want to know more about how the math behind Leandri's goes. I think a lot of people misunderstand just how much damage that item does. It does a truckload of damage. It's way, way more damage than Morello. Morello is nice if you really need the healing debuff. But as you can see, like, most people will get Leandri's. Very few people go Morello. There are some people who are getting Zhonya's, but you got to keep the context in mind here. They're not getting Zhonya's because Zhonya's is actually good on Zyra. They're getting Zhonya's out of necessity, probably because they're getting spanked by, like, an AD assassin in that game. So, like, you know, Adrian here is 3 and 5, and they have a fed Wukong, a fed Camille, and so he's getting Zhonya's so that he doesn't get one-shotted by these assassins. So it's not something that you walk into a game saying, wow, I really want to buy Zhonya's on Zyra. It's something where you're saying, well, I'm playing Zyra, I'm very vulnerable to assassins, and there's a fed assassin on the enemy team that does 80 damage, so I'm going to have to buy Zhonya's just so that I don't get obliterated every time a fight starts, right? I assume it's probably similar with this guy. Yeah, super fed Graves. I mean, Graves is not technically an assassin, but super fed, difficult to avoid, 80 damage. Now, this guy's going a really rogue build. He's going, like, Locket Redemption. This is awful. Don't ever get these items. I don't know what's up with that. If he was just, I mean, he may have just been experimenting, or maybe he was so far behind early on, he was just like, forget it. I just need to just get, maybe, I mean, I guess his thought process is, his team already has so much damage, right? So his team already has Pyke, Talia, Kassadin, and Kaisa, that he doesn't need to do a lot of damage. Maybe he first picked Zyra, and then all of a sudden, you know, his team picked all damage, and so he just wanted more utility. I mean, I guess in that context it makes sense, but this is why it's important, if you're going to use something like pro builds, to just look in and just look at the game setup. Just see, like, who... Like, why did they get those items? How did they adapt? Like, why is this guy getting redemption here? And see if you can see the story behind that. So, anyways, you are seeing some people getting Zhonya's, but it's bad. It's like, it's pretty much they're just behind and getting smashed. Like, this one had a Kaisa and a Kha'Zix that were both super fed on the enemy team. So that's why they're getting that item. But in an ideal world, you know, if the game's relatively even, if they don't have a super fed assassin, and sometimes even if they do, then Leandri's is going to be your way to go. Leandri's Rylai's is your way to go. You could do Leandri's Morello. I'm not sure. I don't think... I mean, that would do probably more damage to squishies. I don't know. I'd have to do the math on that. That might do more damage to squishies with the flat pin than the extra burn damage would do off of Rylai's. So, anyway. So, you can get Zhonya's if you want, but it's pretty bad in general on Zyra, because what are you going to do? Like, when you Zhonya's, like, as soon as you come out of the Zhonya's, you're just going to die anyways, because Zyra doesn't have short cooldowns that can let her escape. So, a lot of champions that get Zhonya's either have some kind of special interaction with it. So, like, Fiddlesticks ult, Kennen ult, Swain ult, things like that. or you have some kind of ability that you're waiting to come off cooldown, and then once it comes off cooldown, then you're able to, you know, escape or fight them back or something like that as soon as that comes up. So a good example of this would be someone like Fizz, because Fizz has a pretty short cooldown on his, you know, Playful Trickster, his E and his Q, and he can hop around. Then that's why. And then Fizz also does dot damage, so a lot of sort of damage over time. And so when he does that Zhonya's, they're taking more damage, and one of his abilities is probably going to come off cooldown by the time Zhonya's finishes, and so that gives him a little bit more leeway there. So yeah, I just don't think Zyra is the type of champion that benefits heavily from Zhonya's. It's just kind of like, if you're feeding a lot and you need to stop, you can try to get it, but I think a lot of times it really doesn't help that much. So this would be the standard build order that you can adapt from, but I think this is a good place to start thinking about what you want to build most games. You want to max E, W, Q. You know, some people argue, well, you could put more points in Q and lane. That's true. You know, you could get maybe 2, potentially up to 3 points of Q in lane. But after that, you really want to max your E. That's your crowd control. That's what's going to hold people in place while your plants are going off. And W is so great for vision control and for poke in the mid to late game. And keep in mind, plants are most of your damage, right? The Q doesn't, like, it does a little bit more damage, but it's your plants that do all of the damage. And so having more plants, having that on a lower cooldown is really where you want to be a lot of the times. I would go EWQ in most games with, you know, the understanding that early on in lane, you'll want to start with Q and then get W. And if you're winning or you think you're going to be able to get a lot of poke, you could get a second point in Q and then start maxing the E. But I certainly would not do 5 points in Q under any circumstance in lane, because you're waiting on your W to do damage anyways most of the time, right? So yeah, your Q's on a lower cooldown, but you know, the W early on is on a 20-second cooldown, so you're waiting on that anyways, unless you're just spamming raw Q's on people, which don't do a lot of damage without the plants. That's how she's balanced. Like, her spells don't do a ton of damage individually if there's no plants involved. But if there are plants involved, then she does quite a bit of damage. So a lot of it comes down to the plants. You want more of them. That's why W is a good second max. You don't want it first, though, because you do want to have some spells that do crowd control and damage, but it's really nice to have second. Okay, let's go ahead and get in here. So I'm going to take some notes as we go through this, and we'll recap it at the end here. Okay, and you're on blue side.
Welcome to Summoner's
Actually, you're on red side. I lied.
30 seconds until minions
Okay.
spawn.
Okay, I do see that you have Comet. I can't see the rest of it, and it's pretty good. Now, one thing I will say right off the bat, you need to take Ignite every time on Zyra. Yeah, they don't even have, like, you know, the only time when I would ever consider taking Exhaust is when, maybe, if they have something like a Talon, who is, like, very unavoidable, like, super high burst damage. But everyone over here is fairly avoidable if you just position properly. So you want to take Ignite because Zyra is a very heavy pressure lane champion. Like, you're ideally picking Zyra to dominate the laning phase, right? You need to get ahead, you need to snowball, or else she's going to get outscaled by enchanters. So that's something to keep in mind. So you pretty much always want to take Ignite on Zyra. It gives you so much more kill pressure. Okay, nice. See if you can get some autos in there too. Like when he tries to auto attack, I know Draven's scary, but see if you can just clip it more than auto. Zyra has really good range. She has 575 range, so you should be able to outrange these people. Now you need to be careful walking up to even Lulu. Like Lulu can do quite a bit of damage early on. There you go, yeah, you got it, but run. Flash, is he gonna... No, don't walk up. Oh, God. Wow, this is like the only Draven in history that wouldn't flash to kill you after you flashed. I mean, your AD carry could have healed potentially to save you, but I don't know. Either way, okay, well, I feel like you lucked out there that neither Draven nor Lulu flashed after you. Especially Draven. I mean, Draven was literally one auto from killing you. I would at least put the AD carry to the test and see if they're fast enough on their flash. Or they're fast enough on their heal. She may have even been too far away at that point to heal you because you flashed away from them. No, back up, back up, back up. Y'all are in a very bad position right now. You need to... Well... Guys, lane is so dicey. Yeah, so I would say positionally here, like, you're moving up a little too far. Trying to get these Qs, especially when you don't have a W ready early on. Now, you need to help her push. They backed. Draven's, like, not there, so you need to go ahead and push. Like, it's okay to auto the minions. In fact, it's encouraged. Don't last hit the minions, but... Yeah, so because you didn't help her push fast enough, then Draven's not going to miss most of these. He's probably going to be here in, like, 5 or 10 seconds. So he's going to catch almost all of this. He's not going to miss anything. Whereas if you helped her do, like, if you did that and pushed faster, then he would have lost probably one melee minion and then the cannon minion. So you could have denied somewhere around probably 60 gold to him. But as it stands, he's going to catch up at least a little bit for this Kaisa, probably. Oh, he just missed a flat out, missed the cannon. Okay, what do you have? Do you have 500? Yeah, okay, Frostfang. Potions. Like a potion ward? Potion. Okay. Yeah, I'd probably go with the potion here over the ward. Yeah, make sure you're pinging these things if you see them. Well, you don't have to ping your own TP. I didn't see if you pinged the exhaust and the Draven heal, but make sure you're pinging all the summoners. Even if it's not where you are on the map, like if you see that top lane uses their teleport. No, whoa, 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 hold on, hold on, hold on. Yeah, that... Okay, so this is one thing to definitely work on, like... You want to be aggressive, but you don't want to be really far forward, especially past the minion line. Because if you go past the minion line, like if you start attacking them, if a fight breaks out, all of their minions are going to hit you. And then all of your minions are, you know, you don't have enough minions to fight back. Also, like with E, you don't just want to go for just like walk up to them and E because they're going to be expecting it. You have to wait until he tries to go for a last hit. So wait until... You know, he tries to, like, go for this minion or something. And then when he goes for that, then you hit him with the E. Or watch where Draven's axe is going to land. Watch for that little circle. And then throw the E at the circle. Because he's going to try to go catch it. So you always want to, like, have their mind preoccupied with something else when you're throwing a skill shot at him. Because Zyra's E is very easy to dodge. It's very slow moving. It has a very slender hitbox. And so if they're watching for it... It's very simple to dodge, especially like Draven can W and get extra speed, and you know he can dodge it pretty easily if he's paying attention to it. But if he's focusing on the health bar of the minion trying to last hit, then you know his mind is not going to be as focused probably on trying to dodge that E skill shot. Or if he's trying to focus on catching that axe on that circle, then he's not going to be watching your skill shot. So you want to have them distracted by something before you throw the E at them. And you need to, like, do a max range E and then back up. Especially against something like Draven. He does a ton of damage early on. If he goes in on you, you're going to die. Also, if you miss your E, you're going to die. So, a lot of the times, you want to soften them up with your Q. Just do a Q plant. Because then, even if you miss with your Q plant, often the plant will still hit them a couple of times. And then once they get to, like, 50% health or so, then you go for the kill. But, like, right now, going for that E leaves you very vulnerable. You have no defense if they want to run at you. And you're not going to kill them probably if you hit them with it because they're full health. So just try to soften them up a little bit with your Q and then go for the E kill if you get a good chance. Like right here, like we don't know where Lulu is, but there's a good chance she's like in the area, like either just sitting in this bush or this bush, like warding. You know, she's probably here. Lulu's not the type of champion that's going to just roam middle randomly, probably. Like, she's not like a Blitzcrank who's going to load up on those Moby boots and try to run middle. So she's either here in the shadows or she's going to be here soon. So maybe, like, I don't know what's going on. So you're past this minion line. You never want to be past this line where the minions are. As a squishy type of champion. Really, as most champions, you don't want to be past this line. Because now, like, even if you walk up, even if you hit that root on him at full health, right? Even in the best case scenario, you hit him with the root, you know, and you get the plants on him, and then you try to auto attack him or something, all these minions are going to turn around and hit you. Or if Kaisa tries to come in and help you and she starts auto attacking, then all the minions are going to hit her. And these do a lot of damage. A lot early on. I mean, if we look at the damage, especially these caster minions, it's 27 damage a pop. So, you know, after your armor or whatever, it's probably 20 damage each. Maybe even more than that. So that's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's 120 damage. Then these are probably doing like 10. 9 or 10. So what is this, 120? One of them's about to die. You're looking at 120 to 130 damage per second off of these things. So that's a lot. That's a lot of damage. So you wanna be very careful around them. Excuse me. Alright. See how they're all hitting you right now? How they're all turning around, they're gonna hit you. Let's just watch how much damage these things. Well, he's gonna bust you up. Now there's Lulu, yeah. And you notice your 80 carries really far back also, because they're just thinking we're not gonna fight because there's too many minions. So you want to make sure your 80 carries on the same page you are. It's, yeah, especially when you don't have flash, you gotta be careful there. But yeah, even before that play, like earlier on, you know, you're walking up a little too far out of position to get these good fights in. They could be on Infernal right now. Okay, never mind. She showed back up. How we looking CS wise? Okay, at least Lulu got it, I guess. Yeah, be careful with Jax. You still don't have flash. Use your Q plant to poke more. I think that's something, like, you. Looks like you're just going for, like, the all-ins a lot with your E. You want to make sure that you're using that Q, because the Q is much more likely to do damage to them. Because it's a ranged plant, and it's a much faster skill shot. Like, that E takes a while to get to him. The Q is not quite instantaneous, but it's close. So yeah, and you want to make sure you just use a single plant. Because if you don't have any plants, you're really defenseless if they come at you. Also, like, plants do reduce damage. You know, it's 50% less damage per plant beyond the first that hits somebody. Back up, back up. Yeah, I think you're not playing to your max ranges a lot. I think you're getting pretty close. Because, like, your E has, like, an 1100 range, and your Q has, like, pretty much all of your spells pretty much have an effective 800 range, because that's how far your seeds are. And Draven's auto attack is 550, so he should never be in range to auto attack you off of most of the stuff. Yeah, hit him. Ping them back. Tell them don't dive this. Okay. I got Dragon, which is good. You're probably sitting on a lot of gold. Yeah. Back for that Sork boots. Yeah, you didn't have enough for Sork boots. It's like 300 gold value. I probably would have rather just gotten Amp Tome and boots there instead of all the extra stuff. Like, especially after the mana changes to Zyra, you really don't need a Fairy Charm anymore. One control ward's fine, so that would have saved you 200 gold. I mean, having extra potions is nice, but I think you can play far back enough to where you can use those boots. Because you really want to get those Sork boots online pretty early. Okay, that was a good combo. Yeah. It's definitely a bit unexpected. I would... In your position here, I would have control warded that, not just because I could magically, like, predict that, is he gonna get them both? Maybe. What is he doing? Okay, I guess it worked. And... control. Yeah, he doesn't understand you can jump on him without being in a bush, I think, when your ult's going, but... Anyways, you want to have a control ward here. If you're losing the lane, if you're getting pushed in a lot, this is a great place to put your control ward, because it not only watches for those ganks, but it allows you to sweep all the wards that might be on this rim here, which is a very popular place to ward by the enemy team. So that gives, like, your Rengar a chance to use the Blast Plant to pop over and all that kind of stuff. So this is where I would put your control ward right now. In the way this lane's been going, that's how I would do it. If you're in a really dominant position, you could put the control ward in a bush, like in a lane bush, but you need to put it somewhere. Like, you can't, this is a very popular place to put it too. You need to put a control ward somewhere though, because you have it. Oh, you went for Inspiration. Yeah, I definitely wouldn't do that. You need Chrysalis and Bone Plating, which is part of why you're, you know, getting blown up in a lot of these fights. Like, if you had Chrysalis and Bone Plating, it would have been much more difficult for that Jax to kill you under tower like that. Okay, good. That's what I'm talking about. That's the kind of stuff you want to be doing. Like, harassing with your Q, and then when they get low, then you go for that E. So I like that. That's what I want to see a lot of the time. That's very ambitious to put a control ward there. Yeah, see if you can get him. Okay, nice. Almost. Yeah, Riven's got her. Okay, good. No. I would just back and spend that gold. You have a lot of gold. You should have enough for Sword Boost now. Yeah, you could have backed, like, after this kill, you could have just backed and you could have already been back to lane. I think you're sitting on too much gold right now. I forgot the button to check. There's your stats. I'm trying to remember. Oh, there we go. It's X. Yeah, you got 1,700 gold. You gotta buy after that stuff. Those are some really big items. Like, when you get Haunting Guys and Sword Boots, like, that's a lot of extra damage. But you've got your ult back, so try to get a kill first at this point. You might as well. Now that y'all are starting to get a little bit more control of this lane. No. Okay, just ping back and go by. You're not going to kill him without your ult, so. I think what I would do is I would control ward this bush, put a normal ward in this bush. Now that you're starting to get a little bit more of a lane dominant position, you can auto attack it once more. Yeah, y'all really shouldn't go for flanks. Here's the thing about Zyra. Let me write some of this stuff down here really quick.
Red team's turret has been destroyed.
Alright, just writing some of that stuff down before I forget. You don't want to flank as Zyra because, like, her E is just very sketchy. Like, if you miss that, you're extremely vulnerable. As we've seen a couple of times this game, right? Like, if your E misses, then you're just gonna die if you're flanked. So she's just really not a flank type of champion. Like, you really want to be killing people out of bushes, or you want to be hanging out on the back line, and as people charge into you, then you E them. And you want to try to keep max range as much as possible. Because she's just very slow, she's very squishy, and that's really your only reliable form of CC with the E. Alright, so you're doing it again here. You're trying to flank. You don't want to do that. Like, it might work out sometimes, but more times than not, it's going to get you killed. Let him die. Just let him die. You need plants also. This has been a couple of ults where there haven't been any plants in there. Like, a lot of your damage comes from your plants. Especially with your ult. Your ult makes your plants do 50% more damage. So whenever you hit them with that E, you need to put some plants down. The ideal combo is you E, root them, and then after you root them, then you drop the Q plants on them. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of Oblivion Orb here. It is a good item, but like, I think Oblivion Orb potentially could be better as a standalone item than Haunting Guys. It depends on the situation and how much magic resist they have and all that stuff. You know, as I said before, there's a conversation for Oblivion Orb versus Haunting Guys, but I think that Leandri's is unequivocally stronger than Morello, and so like, you're buying a little bit of an edge early with the Oblivion Orb. But I think that the amount of the edge and like the window where it's relevant is so minute that I just don't think it's worth it. I would just go for Leandri's. Like, Haunting Guys might be, I don't know, 5% less strong than Oblivion Orb in a lot of cases, but Leandri's is probably 30% stronger than Morello, something like that. You really don't want to use that ult unless you hit the E. You gotta wait till you hit the E. And once again, this is getting into flanking. You really don't want to be flanking like that. I mean, I know you had Rengar backup, but you don't know who else is here. Like, you don't have any vision, which gets to another point. You need more vision on the map right now. You want to stay in your area of vision. Run, run. Okay, it worked out. Yeah, after you hit your E and then drop your Q plants on them. I haven't seen a lot of that either. A lot of times you're using the melee plants, which are pretty bad a lot of the time. You want to use your E, and then after you root them with the E, then you use your Q and put the range plants on them. If you do want to put a melee plant on them, it should just be like one melee plant, and then you put the Q plant on them. Jax is a big problem. Actually, a very big problem. So you need to try to stay away from Jax if you can. But yeah, because you didn't have vision, I mean, all 5 of them could have just been rolling up middle, you know, because all that you had vision of was this. So if you want to make that play right there, at a bare minimum, you need to have this warded so that you can see who's actually middle, and then you need to have, like, this warded so that you can see if someone's coming up the river to flank you. And if they're behind you, if they have, like, this tier 2 down, you probably need a ward in your own jungle. So you need, like, a zone of control where you have all the vision, you know what's going on, and then you play around that zone. Sorry about that. I thought I had my phone on silent. Let me see here. What'd you get now? You got the Oblivion Orb? Okay, so I've actually thought about this build, and I've come to the conclusion I really don't think it's worth it to go for Oblivion Orb and Haunting, guys. The thing is, you could complete either Morello or Leandri's for that price, and I think that just completing Leandri's is just stronger than having both of these. Because it's going to give you, like, a little bit less health. It's going to give you less AP. I'm pretty sure that, because it's basically the same price, right? It's 1,500 plus 1,500. And, you know, so for 100 more gold, you get Leandri's. So what are you getting for that price? Well, you're getting, like, 100 more health. But you're losing out on 20 AP, which is a lot. And you're basically trading the flat pin on this, the 15 pin, for the Leandri's burn damage, Eyes of Pain, which is, Eyes of Pain is way stronger. So I really wouldn't go for this build. Just because completing the full Leandri's is better. Even though, like, the parts of this are much nicer, like being able to get, you know, Amp Tomes and Ruby Crystals feels a lot better than having to wait on Blasting Wand. Unfortunately, Leandri's is still the place to be. So I think if you go Oblivion Orb early, I would probably just... Like, the only situation I would start doing that would be if you really, really need the... Let's watch how this goes down. Yeah, they're just bulldozing me too much here. Anyway, so the only reason that I would get Oblivion Orb is if you really want that Morello's quickly, because the enemy team has a lot of plus healing and shielding, if they have a Soraka or something, and you're like, well, I guess I'm just gonna get it. And I mean, in this game, you do have a lot of damage, so maybe you feel like you don't have to, you'd rather have the utility or something. I don't know. Yeah, I've thought about going both of those before, and ultimately, I'm pretty sure when I ran the numbers, I concluded that it's just a better idea to just go ahead and completely Andres. This guy's just gonna die to, like, super minions. It's gonna be pretty dark. Yeah, I mean, look at this. I guess you just got caught there, but honestly, it's probably not gonna matter with 3 inhibitors rolling up. You're doing your best to clear. A lot of this comes down. You do have some vision through here, which is good, but yeah, your vision goes down right there. And it just, yeah, I guess they got caught first. But yeah, I think just stay in max range and just trying to use your ult to deal would have been better there. Although, like I said, at this point, I don't think it's gonna matter. But okay, so let's go ahead and talk about what you can work on here real quickly. Okay, so the number one thing is the number one thing is you need to stay at max range when you use your spells. Like, always. Pretty much. Because a lot of times you're getting close enough to where Draven in the laning phase can auto-attack you. Like, right there, you're sort of close enough for Tryndamere to just spin onto you and start auto-attacking you. So you need to stay 800 range away from people. Like, just really, really far away. Because that's your plant range. So whenever you're casting your spells, you can just stay that far away. If they start to run away, you might be able to land one auto attack at 575 range, max range, outside of Draven's range. So you can sneak in a couple of autos, but I think a lot of times you're walking in a little too close and you're getting hit by things. Alright, so you're getting hit by auto attacks or spells, and then you'll find yourself out of position, you'll have to flash. So part of that formula is stay at max range whenever you cast your spells. The other part of the story here is you want to avoid flanking when playing Zyra, or just like any sort of squishy champion that is just really vulnerable. You don't want to flank, right? So now that doesn't mean that you can't hide around like bushes and things like that, but you have to make sure that you have really good vision control if you're going to try for that sort of strategy. If you're hiding in the bushes, you need to make sure that you have multiple teammates that are pretty close, and you need to have good vision behind you and beside you, so that when you try to make that pick, if you miss with your E, then you have a place where you can retreat safely, right? So when you tried to go for that pick in the mid lane, you were hanging out there with Rengar, you know, you didn't have any vision, right? Like, you had vision in that one sort of river bush plant there, but you didn't have vision in the middle, you didn't have vision behind you in your own jungle, and you didn't have vision upriver a little bit. So anyone could have been flanking you right there. So that gets to a lot of number 2 is so place much more vision around points of interest. So Let me just pull up the Rift kit here real quickly. If it loads up. Question mark, we'll see. But I'm just going to show you like some really good places where you can set up vision if you want to set up those nests, sort of where you can sit with Zyra and pick people off. You got to keep in mind like the relative strength of the enemy team if you're trying to do that. Like if you're really far behind, like your team was that game, you're probably not going to be able to kill them right away, you know? Okay, good, we got it here. So let me grab a couple of these dots here. Okay, so here you are. So, good places to hide. Now, this is assuming that it's sort of neutral on the map. So, you want to have a pink ward in the bush that you want to hide in, or in the area where you want to hide. And then you want to have, like, this is probably the most common place that I recommend. You want to have vision, like, either... definitely here, but then either here or here. And then a lot of times like over here, sort of in the mid game. So this way you have a nice circle, a zone of control where you know where that you're not going to get flanked, right? You know no one's coming in through here or here or here, right? And then you have a pink ward, so you know they're not watching you here. And then you can just kind of hang out here. Actually, I mean, typically you'll have to put a ward here also. So you got to be pretty confident they're not going to flank around from behind you if you do this. Or I guess you could move some of these wards around. Like you could move this one here if you wanted to, and then move this one over here. Just something like that where you know where they're going to be. And then you hang out here, and then whenever they try to walk through here, then you, you know, throw your plants over the wall and kill them. And a big reason for that, too, is if you miss, if it's a melee champion, you can, you know, get away, and there's a wall there. So they're not going to get you unless they flash over the wall. And then you're going to have some options at that point. But, like, what you were trying to set up... From what I remember, you had yourself, you had your jungler, and then, like, I'm pretty sure you were up past the minion line. If you weren't past the minion line, you certainly did not have a lot of vision in here. So, yeah, you were there, and you had no idea where anybody was. Like, you saw the Draven here, but you didn't have a ward in the middle. You did have a ward... I believe you had, I think it was a normal ward here. So if you want to try to go for this play, you need to make sure the rest of your team is sort of on board with it. You need to be pinging more. I don't remember you pinging a lot in that game. But if you want to try to set that up, you need to definitely have like this area pinked so that they can't, so that you know they're not watching you. Anytime you're trying to make a play like this, you need to make sure that they don't see you. So you need to have like this area pinked, and then probably like a ward here, a ward there. I would just put a ward here, probably. Just don't even worry about this bush. And if you see them like walking in the bush, then you can just cast your plants on it. The plants will get vision of the bush. And in your situation where they, your tier 2 tower is down, you probably need to put a ward like, I don't know, somewhere in here. It's just really dangerous to be extended past your towers anyways. So like, because this tower's down, and I think this tower might have been down too, and this tower's down, like, that's just super dangerous because they could come around and flank and collapse on you. But in general, like, anytime you make a pick like that, you need to have vision in the area around you so that you're not going to get flanked and picked off. And so you just have really good intel so you can make decisions. So you need vision anyways, but specifically you need vision around where you're trying to make something happen. So in other words, like, if you're trying to make this is the vision you want. You don't want to have, like, you know, random ward watching the river over here. You know, maybe, like, random ward down here in this bush, and then, you know, maybe a ward, like, over this wall or something like that, right? So you want to have a purpose with your wards. You want to be saying, okay, we're going to try to make a play in this area, so I'm going to put my wards in this area to make sure that we've got, you know, clear sight of the situation of what's going on. So, yeah, so try to use wards around there. So try to time your buys. Like there's that one point where you had 1,500 gold and you didn't back, and instead you kind of stayed in the lane and you lost a lot of damage because you tried to all in before that. Another thing sort of related to that, so just check your items, you know, if you have enough to complete a major item like Haunting Guys or Sorcerer Boots, or if your 80 carry's already backing, you know, just try to go and spend that gold whenever you can. Just save your ult until you absolutely know you're going to hit that E, right? Like, I know sometimes I'm guilty of this too. Like, if we're pretty confident that it's going to hit, we just go ahead and cast the ult. But you want to make sure that you save it. And you need to have plants. You need to try to have at least one plant triggered, and ideally both plants need to be triggered by that ult. Because there were several ults, if you go back and watch, where you did the ult, and I don't think you had a single plant, right? So you need to just slow down a little bit, hit them with the E, Q, double plant ult, right? So make sure that you're getting both of those plants on them, and then you're ulting, because it gives the plants 50% extra damage, and you want them... While they're tied up with the E and crowd control and knocked up, you want those plants hitting them, because that's how Zyra's balanced. Like, Zyra's spells themselves don't do a lot of damage because they are accompanied by the plants, you know, if used properly. And so that's a lot of the damage. So whenever you E somebody and then immediately put plants on them and then knock them up, you know, the E duration is going to be for like almost 2 seconds these days. And then I think it's 1.75. They just increase it a little bit. And then the knockups for 1 second, and so, you know, they're going to be CC'd for around 3 seconds. That's 3 plant hits. If you have 2 plants on there, that's 6 plant hits. Now the second one does 50%, so I guess it's closer to like, whatever, 4.5 plant hits. But still, it's a lot of damage, multi-hundreds of damage on somebody. So you want to make sure you're getting the plants down before you ult, because if you just ult, like if we look at Zyra here, let me pull her up. If you just ult, you know, this damage is not that impressive, right? Even at level 11, that's only 265 damage. At level, you know, 6, it's only 180 damage. That's almost no damage. That's so weak. Like, your, you know, just your normal E does 240. So your normal, just maxed out E damage does almost as much as your level 2 ultimate damage. Now, you might say, well, what the heck? That's trash. But... this is the ticket here. Additionally, it increases their total damage by 50% to 100%. I didn't realize that it went to 100%. I thought it was always 50% extra damage. So that's a lot of damage, right? So yeah, this looks like nothing. That's no damage. But if you have 2 plants here now, so if you're level 9, you have 2 plants. Now it does 50% less damage if it's not the first plant to attack the target. But... just not even assuming spell penetration here or AP scaling or anything like that. Just base damages. You hit 64 plus 32, that's 96 damage. And then you're getting, you know, 50% extra damage off of your ult. So that's, I don't know, like 144 damage or something like that. I can't do the math off the top of my head right now. 147 damage, something like that. Close to 150 damage. So that's 150 damage per volley from these things, and they're gonna attack probably 3 times on somebody. If you root them and then spawn the plants and then knock them up with your ult, they're probably gonna get at least 3 volleys of attacks on them. That's 450 damage. So your base, you know, your base spell, and that's assuming level 9. So that would just be your level 1 ult if that happens. So, you know, your base damage is 180 on the ult at level 9, but... you know, with the plants involved, then all of a sudden that becomes 450 plus 180, so that's 630 damage. That's a lot of damage. So if you hit them with just the ult, that's nothing. But if you hit them with the ult with 2 enraged plants going at them, that's where you get a ton of damage. So you got to make sure you get plants down whenever you do that ult. It's a really big deal. Yeah, don't flank by sooner. I'll put this up here too, a little bit earlier. Use defensive pinks if you're losing your lane. So like, just put the pink up there in the bush where they could dive you from. Pretty much, it's just to try to prevent you from getting dove, and also to deny vision so that your jungler can come in and help you out. I talked about that in the video quite a bit. Yeah, I think that's pretty good. So that's a pretty good place to start. That's like 7 good tips here. So the biggest thing is use your max range on your spells. Just try to stay as far back as humanly possible whenever you cast your spells. Avoid the flanks. If you do want to flank, if you want to try to catch people out, don't push too far beyond your tower, and make sure you have really good vision around there as well. And then just make sure that you're getting those plants down. Harass more with your Q plant too. That's something that I could mention. So harass more with the Q plant. You are always trying to go for the all-ins with the E. If they see that your E is down, if you use it and miss, they're just going to run at you. They know they're going to have a field day. But if you use just one plant and your Q, then they know you still have your E plus a plant. And so you've still got some defense. So they're not going to run at you. Or they're less likely to run at you, right? Because you've still got defense. But if you miss with your E, you're wide open. And they can just go at you and kill you. Like Draven did that one time when you missed the E on him. So go for the Q harass until you get him to about 50% or less, and then go in for the kill with the E, and make sure they're distracted. Make sure he's trying to catch an axe, or he's trying to last hit with CS, or you're in a bush where they don't have vision. Like, don't just try to run at them and just throw your E at them, because they're going to see it coming, and it's pretty easy to dodge if someone's, you know, someone's watching for it. Okay, and then I think that's pretty much it. So, anyways, overall, like, pretty good play. I thought you landed some really nice E's in there. You got some good ult, some good crowd control. It's just taking these things into account, I think, will help you out quite a bit. So, thank you very much, Jens. As always, really appreciate it, and have a good day. See everybody next time.